answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
China is raising the stakes on retaliation, raising its tariff on U.S. goods to 125% overnight, effective tomorrow, after President Trump yesterday raised the tariff on Beijing to 145%. Xi Jinping remaining defiant, saying China has never relied on handouts in over 70 years, and it is not afraid of, quote, unjust suppression.
Since 2001, China has destroyed over 60,000 American factories and stolen over 5 million manufacturing jobs. That's the state of play. So all we're asking for is fairness.
That is Peter Navarro, the White House trade representative, and Maria Bartiromo. Yes, China decided we're going to hit you with bigger tariffs again, thinking we will be quaking in our boots. And Navarro pointing out they have stolen, since 2001, 5 million jobs from our nation. And, of course, multiple companies have been closed up and shuttered because of what China's been doing. And now we got Trump stepping forward and saying, we're going to set things right. We're going to get things right one way or the other. And what do we hear from the leftists? Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat spokeswoman, or spokesman, I should say, stating that, look, we need to investigate if Trump is manipulating stocks to make profits. They never raised that question about Biden one time, not even came close to it. And he's talking about how the stock market went down, then went back up, and then went down. And you know what? Trump put out on his own social media, if you think so-called insider trading is what Hakeem is suggesting, Trump posted on his own social media, this is a great time to buy. I mean, that's not very closed information, and you can either decide to or not. But once again, we have the leftists trying to find anything they can grab onto and hold. They just can't. Thanks for joining us. Hour number one, Larry Connors USA. We're here every Monday through Friday for you from 6 to 8 p.m. And when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. You go to NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook or Twitter, Larry Connors USA Rumble or Facebook. And everything goes up as a podcast when we finish. Both at NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, and Larry Connors USA Facebook. And with Larry Connors USA, you are getting news, analysis, opinion, and education. When we finish each hour, you're going to be more informed than you were before we started. I promise you that. Heads up, reminding you next week. Next week is the date that we have Mayor Glenn Jacobs of Knoxville County, Tennessee, coming in. He's being brought in by the Americans for Prosperity, I should say. And News Talk STL is teaming up with them. Mayor Jacobs will be speaking at the St. Charles Funny Bone on April 16. Oh, yeah, the day after tax day, right? But he will be speaking about no income tax. This is not going to be a boring session, by the way. And those of you who don't know, Glenn Jacobs was a world wrestler champion at one point. So we're going to have some fun. We were talking earlier about getting Vic Purcelli in a headlock, see if he can get out of it. Better tap out quick. By the way, RFK yesterday announcing in a cabinet session that they might have found, or they're working, I should say, very close to finding some reasons for autism among our children and how much and why it has increased dramatically. You want to hear that story coming up later. And I want to take the liberty to go on a little bit lighter side on another issue because I think RFK Jr. might have also found, not again dealing with the autism, but he might have identified why Jasmine Crockett is so low IQ, literally. That'll be coming up later. So back to dealing with a tariff war is going on right now. Missouri Senator Hawley says Trump is finally doing what no one else would.
I mean, the truth is the Biden administration knew very well that China was behind these cyber attacks. There's the Salt Typhoon attack, which is China getting into our digital infrastructure, getting into our communications grid. They're still there, by the way. What did the Biden administration do about it? Nothing. I mean, this is the problem. For years, China has been eating our lunch, stealing our jobs, taking our industries, taking our technology, cheating on trade. Joe Biden didn't do a thing. He couldn't be woken up to do anything about it. And now Donald Trump is getting serious. He's actually protecting this country, protecting our jobs, bringing back industry. That's what we need him to do. And the liberals are going crazy and they're going nuts because they know he's right. They don't have any answer for it. They know he's right. They know this is what needs to happen.
And it has to happen because we have been basically bent over by China for decades. And, of course, the leftist media, the legacy media, and all their others come together and they find a way to find something that they can say, this is so wrong. The latest example, CNN, referring to a University of Michigan survey. How blue is University of Michigan, I wonder? Anyway, their survey supposedly finding that consumer sentiment plunging 11% this month. 11%. The lowest we've seen since the Great Recession. I don't know how accurate their survey is, but they're trying to say the Americans no longer believe that we're going to be a good, make America great again country. They are basically taking pot shots at Trump and everyone who thinks that by stabilizing tariffs, by bringing things to a level playing field, America and the world will be better off. But they don't want you to believe that. I want you to hear how they're reacting in China. This is some of the business owners. They're allowed to have a business in China, but of course, it is controlled by the government. You know that. But here's how those who have put together a business in China are suffering already.
Last month, I took an order for a batch of copper parts. I've already bought all the materials. It cost tens of thousands, and everything has been cut, ground, washed, and engraved. It's not finished yet, but today the customer messaged me and said the delivery might be delayed. After customs clearance, the taxes have gone up too much. A TikToker who works as a bulk trade supplier shared in his video the huge pressure he's under after the sudden increase in U.S. tariffs.
订单量5000多万美金，今年我们订单已经排到了26年的5月份。
Our orders are worth over $50 million US dollars. This year, we're already booked through May 2026. But with this 30% tariff hike, the impact on us is huge. If you're a small startup, it's not such a big deal because you don't ship enough to fill an entire container. But for us, it hits hard. Our profit margins in bulk trading are already razor thin. Now with a 34% tariff, it's like getting knocked to the ground.
Well, and the reason that's happening is because you guys have been doing it to us. And those Chinese businesses were also already paying a tariff to China to begin with. Peter Navarro, White House advisor, said, if I were to be an advisor to Premier Xi, here's what I would advise him.
What we should do, Mr. Xi, I'm a Chinese advisor right now, is do what we should have done over a decade ago, is move towards a domestic consumption-dependent economy and lift our people out of prosperity, not just with wages, but to give them the wherewithal to actually buy stuff, and that we should move to an accommodation and pick up the phone. And I would tell President Xi, if I'm his advisor, is like, look, we're a prisoner of our history. The British unfairly killed us with their opium, took our wealth, took our ports with these unequal treaties. But this is not that with the Americans. The Americans have a very legitimate beef with us, and we need to come to some kind of accommodation and pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone. But he also admitted that if I were an advisor and gave him that kind of advice, I'd either be locked away in a dungeon for the rest of my life or my head would be chopped immediately. And you also have to keep in mind, the European Union, when Trump first started pushing this stuff, was saying it's wrong, we're going to fire back, we're not going to take part of it. Then they began to see how he was going after everyone. And so then they began to back off. But then they decided to get fired up again. And China's asking the European Union, join with us in a fight against Trump, as they were asking the Aussies. The Aussies said no. The European Union is saying no. And Victor Davis Hanson says the reason is because the EU has been suffering under China.
If Donald Trump can cut a deal with one major player, and I think that Scott Bessent can, preferably in Europe, because what he's basically saying, if it's reciprocal or no tariffs, zero tariffs, they're going to want to make a deal. You mentioned all the other extraneous issues, but for right now at this time, just one or two major players, and I think all the rest will follow, and China's not going to like that because the Europeans know that China treats them as badly, almost as badly as it does us, and they've been waiting for American leadership to say, look, why don't we in the West and the westernized parts of Asia get together and have zero or reciprocal parity on tariffs, then we will have real leverage about the one player in the world that culturally, socially, economically, politically, militarily is trying to leverage all of us.
That would be China. And China's making desperate pleas with the European Union. You need to join us, and we can jointly resist unilateral bullying of the Trump tariffs. The EU, despite their dislike in many cases for Trump, they realize they really do not want to get in bed with the Chinese over this. So China, of course, announcing today is going to hike tariffs on American imports from 84% to 125%. Trump had announced earlier this week that we're going to hit China with a 125% tariff. Sounds like it'll be even. We'll see how it actually plays out. There is another issue involving China and how they are truly invading our nations. Even as I'm speaking, they're invading our nation. Again, Victor Davis Hanson.
They have 300,000 students here, and those are conveyors of technology back to China. Some of them, a small percentage, but nevertheless some are engaged in espionage, and they don't want to lose those students. We have almost no students in China.
I filed a bill yesterday to deny now student visas to Chinese students because China has just passed a law that now requires every national to gather intelligence, including Chinese students here studying, gather intelligence and report back. How do we not pass a law that prevents student visas in that respect? I mean, in the past few years, we've had an explosion of Chinese students that were caught gathering evidence or gathering information on military bases, on college campuses. How do we as lawmakers, policymakers not do that?
Yeah, how do we not do that? That is Senator Ashley Moody of Florida. Yeah, you just heard Victor Davis Hanson point out we have 300,000 Chinese exchange students in our nation. Now, I do not want you to suddenly think they're all enemies of our state, our nation, or enemies of you. I have some Chinese friends. I'm sure you probably do too. But the word, as you were hearing from Florida Senator Moody, is that word is out that they're to report back to China all the time as to what they're learning and grab whatever intel we might have, proprietary information, and get it back to China. It's not meant to paint all of them as red, but they are Chinese citizens. They're only here because China allows them to come. Even if they have the grades to get here and everything else, they're not going to leave China unless China allows them to be here. 300,000 of them in our nation as I speak. That should be a red flag that, yeah, we've got an invasion inside our nation by those who want to steal proprietary information from our businesses, from our universities when they are actually teaching and not DEI programming, and whatever else they can do to benefit China. Every student that comes here as a foreign student obviously will pick up information that they will take back to their country, maybe Norway, maybe Spain, and help develop a new company for them using what they learn here. That's fine. But with China, it's not just go learn what you can and bring it back and apply it. Go learn and steal what you can and bring it back. And yet we still have so many on the left that are insisting. They're here on a student visa. It's the same thing back to the issue with the Colombia student, now a green card holder, who was out protesting for Hamas, and Trump wants to deport him. Everybody starts saying, no, you can't do that. He's here on a visa, a student visa, or now even a green card. They need to wake up. And Secretary of State Rubio says, look at it this way.
No one's entitled to a student visa. The press covers student visas like there's some sort of birthright. No, a student visa is like me inviting you into my home. If you come into my home and put all kinds of crap on my couch, I'm going to kick you out of my house. and so, that's what we're doing with our country, thanks to the president.
Wouldn't you do the same? You invite somebody over to your house, they start trashing it, you're out of here. You might have to call the police to get them out, but you're going to get them out. You will, quote, deport them. Put them back out on the porch, even out of your yard. Just because they come here, and they're welcome to come and study, but if they're going to act against our interest while they're here learning at our institutions and stealing for their country, no, they should not be here. If they're going to come here and cry out anti-Semitic shouts and try to terrorize Jewish students, no. There is not one person listening to me right now that would allow anyone inside their home and near their children if they thought they were going to be a threat to them. These 300,000 Chinese citizens, they are not all stealing, you think? Well, they all have instructions to do so. As you heard from the Florida Senator Moody, they're being told, get whatever you can and get information back. And as Victor Davis Hanson said, they have no real students in China. They send them here. It's intel gathering while supposedly also learning. A little bit later in the hour, we're going to talk about the Iran talks that are set for tomorrow. Iran is suggesting we really want to have legitimate talks. We'll see. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And coming up, California Governor Newsom actually thinks that he can run on his record of what he's done with the great state of California, and based on that record, he can become president. Oh my God. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. Ackerman Toyota is #1 in sales for 2024. That is 2 years in a row. It's really no surprise. Ackerman has the largest customer lounge where you can relax, take your time choosing new or premium pre-owned. Ackerman at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Thank you for making Ackerman Toyota #1 2 years in a row. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life. John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Beal has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Beal. Got a great fun idea for you. The Oak Street Inn and Lounge Speakeasy, now open, but you need a passcode to get in. Easy to get. Just visit the Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. I got my code. Get yours. We'll gather at the Speakeasy. Oak Street Inn and Lounge in Cottleville. Plus, enjoy some fine dining. Visit the Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook for your Speakeasy passcode. Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. Get your code now. This is great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations, including Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. You'll be enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars, whiskeys, watch the Masters, a major UFC fight, baseball. Check for details at the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. Lit Cigar.
This is News Talk STL.
I am flesh and I am bone. Rise up, ting ting like glitter and gold. I got fire in my soul. Rise up, ting ting like glitter. Like glitter and gold. Like glitter. Do you walk in the valley of kings?
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
My next guest you might have seen previously on Tucker Carlson shows from time to time. He has a global career spanning corporate boardrooms and national security corridors as well. A corporate attorney, investment researcher, and right out of the state of California. And he wrote a book previously called Failed State. Failed State, a portrait of California in the twilight of an empire. My guest, we welcome aboard Christopher Moritz. Glad to have you with us, sir.
Hi, Larry. It's great to be here.
And you began with your proposal, which I think is a great idea. In the Failed State, the portrait of California in the twilight of empire, you have Governor Gavin Newsom saying, look what I have done with my state. I should be president of all the states. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, the fires really rendered Gavin Newsom for the hollow, grotesque joke that he is. And I hope that remains the case, although, frankly, I think even his latest PR efforts, which you probably have heard of, he's launched a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Entirely self-serving. Well, he's, of course, sitting governor. This may indeed work. And I have no doubt that he will be, if have the opportunity, a formidable challenger on the national stage. And that's why I think this book is relevant, to your audience and beyond California, is that what happens in California does not stay in California.
True.
And Gavin Newsom is the next threat. And it must be understood that California is not a case of mismanagement. It is a case of managed demolition. Everything that has happened in this state by design.
That's a very valid term. Very valid term. It is by design. So how can he convince the rest of the nation that I can wash my hands of this? I didn't actually do it.
Right. Well, in California, and my book goes extensively into this concept, there's this constant theme we see of Sacramento passes down its problems to the county level and to the city level. County and city level can't handle whatever issue that may be. And it's particularly potent in respect to prisoners and certain crime policies. And without getting into the details of that, I would say that, in California, we fail up. Kamala Harris has failed up in California her entire career.
Yeah.
And the kind of apotheosis of that was her run for president. Now, Kamala Harris is just too ridiculous to have obviously continued the illusion. Gavin Newsom is much more skilled.
Oh, he's slick. He is slick. Like they used to call Clinton.
Guy.
Yeah, you remember when they did with Bill Clinton, Slick Willie? That's what you got with Gavin.
For sure. Yeah, but I mean, the fact is that his governorship and also his period as lieutenant governor coincides with an era of California that began the sort of the dark death spiral into the failed state that we are in today. And that culminates, of course, in laws like Prop 47, which was very famous even nationally for effectively legalizing stealing and drug use.
Right.
But there's others. There's other policies that he was always behind and always the progressive champion. And now he's rebranding. Because Gavin Newsom is fundamentally a brand. He's actually a brand owned by the Getty family, and that's a whole nother story. They in many ways run the state, and the Gavin Newsom family, and the Jerry Brown's family, and the Getty family, and the Pelosi's. Like, it's an internecine cabal of, in effect, oligarchs.
You're listening to Christopher Moritz, author of Failed State, portray California in the twilight of an empire. Well, Gavin Newsom, just like the pig, can put lipstick on, but he's still going to be the pig he is. But I want to step away briefly from him.
Sure.
Since you mentioned Kamala, she thinks she has the qualities to step into his shoes and run their state.
Right. I mean, look, I will tell you, she actually was in charge of the language that appeared on the ballot for things like Prop 47. So this is a little kind of ironic, but just kind of, again, grossly ironic detail is that Prop 47, the Legalizing Drugs and Steel Act, was actually on the ballot called Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act.
Yeah.
Okay, so the entire language of that ballot initiative was written by her office, as were a number of others. She presided over this dismantling, especially on the criminal justice side.
Right.
Has been there every step of the way. She even dismantled one of the 100-year-old major narcotics task force that had been set up during Prohibition and was very helpful towards going after the drug cartels, which effectively run the entire criminal economy of California. She just disbanded that.
Do you think, since you related the Getty family to Newsom, that they will embrace her and that she could become California governor?
She's a godmother to one of the Getty children.
I know the relationship, but I mean, will they actually stand with her? I mean, there's some people.
Oh, because she was such an embarrassment last time.
Yeah.
Probably because she's just so bought, and so what's great about Kamala is you purchase her. You purchase her, and she'll do whatever is directed towards her. There's absolutely zero principle or whatever. I actually never thought of her as some sort of leftist progressive. She isn't. She's purely corporate.
That's a very interesting analysis. All right, back to Gavin Newsom. How can he possibly hide and have everybody look away, look away? Don't look at what I've done actually in my state. As you said, I'm putting it on the counties and the cities. They're the ones who've failed. I've run a great state, and now I can be in charge of all the state. First of all, why the hell do people in California continue to elect this kind of nonsense? They're the ones suffering from it.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, that's the ultimate question, and the answer is not simple, but I'll just give you some statistics. 8.5 million people have left California in the last 10 years. Okay, these are citizens. All right, which is an important distinction. 27% of California today is foreign-born. It's the largest in the United States.
Right.
15 years ago, I believe it was 19%. So there has been demographic engineering taking place in California, just as the Biden administration, in my view, in a treasonous manner, tried to attempt to pull the same thing off in nationwide with the immigration policies of the Biden years. California is a testing ground for the worst of the Democratic Party. So it doesn't stay here unless we identify the source and strangle it in the crib in California. So as far as Gavin's turnaround, well, I mean, the sad fact of the matter is the fires have already become a memory. They're already being memory holed. Right. Even here in Los Angeles.
Even in Los Angeles.
Forget about it.
And who actually came in? Real quick question. Who came in when they said it's going to take months and months to clean up? FEMA under Trump came in and did it within days, did they not? So now,
look, in the opening of my book, I describe it's at the end of the book. It's the afterword of the book about what the fire was like after Trump came in, and the contrast between President Trump and Mayor Bass. And there was this really infamous press conference they had at a round table, was so astounding. And when President Trump came to town, there was a sense, and frankly, I have to use Mel Gibson's description on this because it's so good, and I included in my book. He said, when President Trump came to LA, it was like Big Daddy was in town.
Or Braveheart.
There's a boss in town, right? There's a boss that had finally come to town because the rest of this team are passing the buck. I mean, the head of the LA Water Department Power, which is single-handedly responsible for the reservoir to the Palisades that was dry for over a year. Okay, she was a crony of Mayor Bass. Her name is Janice Quinones. And her salary is $750,000 a year.
And she can't keep a pit filled with water. I want to thank you, Chris.
She has a good track record, actually, because her previous job was at PG&E, which is the company that burned alive the town of Paradise, California.
Christopher Moritz, I don't want to cut you off too rapidly, but again, I want to thank you. And the book is Failed State, A Portrait of California in the Twilight of an Empire. And I thank you again, Christopher, for your time. We'll do it again.
Thanks, Larry.
You bet. Coming up, RFK Jr. saying, I can deliver a reason behind autism within months. Stand by.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I've got a phone number for you and a website where you can take a free, quick survey to learn how to use artificial intelligence, AI, to put your company on a fast track to the future. Here's the number. It's a 636 area code, 636-689-0545. 689-0545. This is PRI Global. And recently, the St. Louis Business Journal named PRI Global as a leading IT consulting company. 25 years working with hundreds of companies, several Fortune 500, locally and around the world. PRI Global has its own AI lab to develop what's best for your company. Take the free survey and be on your way to the future. 636-689-0545. 689-0545. Or go direct, priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai. Looking for a great place to watch your favorite game? Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. TVs everywhere, premium cigars, special beers, single barrel whiskey. You do not have to be a member. There's a good chance we'll see each other at Lit Cigar Lounge. Plus, we can order from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta. Our order will be delivered to our table within minutes. Sometimes hard to decide, but always the right decision at Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. I have several questions for you, but there's only one answer. Who has the most 5-star reviews for windows in St. Louis? Renewal by Anderson. Who is the Post-Dispatch Window Retailer of the Year? Renewal by Andersen. Who is the J.D. Power Award winner 5 years in a row? The same. Renewal by Andersen. Dial pound 250 and say Windows. Pound 250, say Windows. Renewal by Andersen. A better way to a better window. Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. It means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Baby, I got your number. Oh, and I know that you got mine. You know that I called you. I called too many times. You can call me, baby. You can call me anytime. You got to call me.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
We have now, the autism rates have gone from now most recent numbers we think are going to be about 1 in 31, from 1 in 12, so they're going up again. From 1 in 10,000 when I was a kid. And we are going, at your direction, we are going to know by September. We've launched a massive testing and research effort that's going to involve hundreds of scientists from around the world. By September, we will know what has caused the autism epidemic, and we'll be able to eliminate those exposures.
So big. Think of that. So it was 1 in 10,000 children had autism, and now it's 1 in 31. Not 31,000, 31. That's a horrible statistic, isn't it? And there's got to be something artificial out there that's doing this. So you think you're going to have a pretty good idea, huh?
We will know by September.
There will be no bigger news conference than that.
My God, I hope that comes true. Do you have autism in your family? In my extended family, there are 2 children. One is, at this point, I think about 8 years old, and another one is approaching 15. Now, autism is seen in different ways and at different levels. It's basically known as the autism spectrum disorder. Neurological developmental disorder affecting people and how they interact with others, communicate, learn, and behave. I remember when I met one of the children I was talking about. He was only maybe 3, maybe 4 at that point. Just kept running up and down the room and then standing on the sofa, jumping up and down, making faces in the mirror, and that was his full entertainment. The child would do it for an hour if you let him. My prayers go out nightly to those working with these children to help turn their lives around and make them more relatable, and that we understand better and we make advances for them, and basically helping get them to mainstream if possible. But the numbers you were just hearing from RFK Jr. saying that when he was growing up is 1 in 10,000 and now it's 1 in 31 being diagnosed as such. And he's saying we hope by September. Actually, he didn't say we hope. He said by September, we will be able to tell you, Mr. President, the causes for autism. Right now, researchers do not have a single cause of autism. They think it's likely a combination of genetics, certain things related to pregnancy, labor, delivery, things of that nature. Obviously, RFK Jr. is pushing a lot of the things in our food chains, the dyes and so forth. That might well play a part in it. But these parents that are struggling with these children, trying to also balance with siblings and help them through life, your heart has to go out for them. And for those who have dedicated their life to learning how to work with these kids and, if not mainstream them, at least get them closer to a level where they can be independent. But finding the cause and putting an end to it, that will be phenomenal. As you heard President Trump say, if you do that, that will be the biggest news conference ever. Those numbers, again, they are absolutely stark if you stop and think about it. 1 in 10,000 years ago. And now we're looking at 1 in 31 diagnosed as having the autism spectrum disorder. This would be a lot of work to get to this point, and then also maybe in time to save future children from falling into that spectrum, and maybe find a way to reverse it quicker for those who are dealing with it. Keep this work in your prayers. I hope RFK Jr. is not overstating what he can provide, but it would be phenomenal. There is a lawsuit that was filed against Rachel Maddow, and the attorney, an elected Democrat who regularly watches MSNBC, an attorney says while he was trying to represent her because she had coined the phrase that a Georgia gynecologist, Dr. Amin, was basically a uterus collector. And she kept using that phrase over and over again. They were claiming that this doctor would go and basically sterilize women. And the attorney said it was Rachel Maddow who tied Dr. Amin as the next chapter in continuing saga of mistreatment of immigrants by the Donald Trump administration, saying that Dr. Amin was basically sterilizing immigrant women. First of all, I'm not sure why Rachel would be so concerned about sterilization when she's all about aborting. When you actually have a fetus, go ahead and kill the baby. But this attorney, Democrat, he said, I do admit, or she said, that she's a female attorney. She said, I admit MSNBC is a default channel for Democrats like myself, but I watch the news with a higher degree of skepticism than most because I've seen what's behind all of this. What they did, Rachel Maddow in particular, she said, in my opinion, continuing to use the statements that this doctor was a uterus collector, he had performed mass hysterectomies when he had them in their hands. All the data they could muster was two cases. And in those cases, they knew that once they looked at the records, ICE got into the records, they were medically necessary for the two women. Rachel Maddow and MSNBC had to settle a $30 million lawsuit. And this Democrat attorney was representing those going after Rachel Maddow. Admitted Democrat, but says that you've gone too far. And they often will do that, will they not? So we have the talks tomorrow, scheduled to be held by the Iranian foreign minister. The Trump envoy Wickoff will also be there. All this brokered by Oman. And Trump has already threatened to, quote, bomb Iran if talks fail. Didn't say it directly in that fashion, but Reuters reports it that way. Reuters is reporting that these are high-level nuclear talks, and they say that Iran, they're quoting Iran as saying, we're going to give a genuine chance for Trump to actually come forward and find something we can agree on. Reuters finds a way to really look at the Iranians and see and say they are the ones that are really anxious to bring peace to the world. Reuters, again, another used to be esteemed news source, like the Associated Press, and BBC, and others, and of course our own legacy media. The Iranian delegation they're quoting as saying, we are definitely going to look for a genuine chance to find some alliance with President Trump. But if they're not giving up their nuclear weapons, there will be no, quote, genuine chance. You walk into a room and you're going to do some negotiating, and you've got your hard lines laid down. You already know you're going to put those people in a corner. But when you walk in, the door closes behind you and you're in a cage. You walked into their snare. I guess Iran, well, they've certainly convinced Reuters and others to agree that they're the good guys in this argument. Really? You cannot reach that conclusion with any rationality. None. But they're going to try. So we're going to be watching over the weekend how these talks go and how it's treated by, quote, the legacy media as to who's responsible if the U.S. envoy leaves without having a deal with Iran. And it will come down to really this. Is Iran going to give up its nuclear program to develop nuclear weapons and allow free, independent, non-announced inspections of those sites? If they do that, great. Put in your prayers. We were talking earlier about RFK, and I want to take a little bit of a lighter approach on something else he's pointed out. And I'm wondering, has RFK Jr. identified why leftists appear clueless, basically low IQ? That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. And don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors, USA. Larry Connors, USA.
Both EPA and my agency, HHS, are now reviewing the fluoride science. There's a lot of recent science, including the National Toxicity Program, which is the ultimate arbiter of the safety of environmental exposures and substances. And in August, the National Toxicity Program put out a meta-review that showed that children and people who are exposed to that there's a direct inverse correlation between exposure to fluoride. It's dose related. In other words, the more fluoride you get, the lower your IQ is going to be.
Well, now, again, I want to tread lightly here. I'm not trying to mock people that may have been overexposed to fluoride and are truly suffering. But I can't help but think, and while we're looking at fluoride as a legitimate issue in our water, and they're looking at pulling it out of the water supply, and we discussed this in detail the other day, when RFK Jr. says that they see studies that the more fluoride you're exposed to, the more likely you're going to be low IQ. One person comes to mind immediately for me.
So I am telling you that this is a failed thing, but we've got to do better to connect the dots and let people know the reason you can't afford a home is because of these failed immigration policies. The reason you're not going to be able to afford your food is because of these failed immigration policies. And the same can go for the hospitality industries, where we have so many of those in the hospitality industry that are saying they do not have the workers that they need right now.
That is Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Can you put any of those sentences together and come out with some understanding of what she is trying to say? Failed immigration policies? What failed immigration policies? The Biden administration had no immigration policy. Just opened the border. We didn't even have a border. And now she wants to say we're having a failure because of Trump and people are losing jobs and people can't get enough and you can't get a home. I think she might be clearly one of those overexposed to fluoride. Now, for those where there is a legitimate concern, We need to continue to investigate. I pointed out to you the other day, it was in the 1950s in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where they began the first fluoridation of water. And by the 70s and 80s, and that was against many complaints. Then they wanted to do it across the nation, and there were a lot of cities, towns, and states fighting against it. And eventually we all have accepted it. Now they're suggesting maybe we don't need it in the water now. Fluoride will actually help prevent tooth decay, make the tooth enamel stronger. But we don't need it in our water because you get it through your toothpaste now. And if it is actually threatening and causing problems for whatever age, low IQ or things of that nature, then, well, yeah, we need to get it out. I don't know. I will admit to you, I might have jumped the shark a little bit by trying to claim that Jasmine Crockett is a perfect example of too much fluoride. I would take it back, except I can't find any way to lift her IQ. I can't do anything for that. She's on her own there. By the way, while RFK Jr. was suggesting in a cabinet meeting to the president yesterday, as you were hearing with us here earlier, they hope to determine, or not hope, but they will determine the cause of autism by September. What's the reaction on the left? Rather than saying, I hope so, because I know there are many on the left that have autism in their families. But the leading voice for the left, the New York Times, found experts that could quickly say, we doubt Kennedy can do that, not in that timetable. Rather than praise him and say, God, we hope so, they want to find a way to debunk it from the beginning. You don't want to miss our second hour. Great guest on one of the most traumatic things you might deal with in life. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. April is big at Lit Cigar Lounge, the place to be to watch the Masters, plus a major UFC fight, and of course baseball, all while enjoying a premium cigar and whiskeys. TVs in every direction. Make your plans. Check the Lit Cigar Facebook for more details. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. And by the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. Ackerman Toyota is #1 in sales for 2024. That is 2 years in a row. It's really no surprise. Ackerman has the largest customer lounge where you can relax, take your time choosing new or premium pre-owned. Ackerman at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Thank you for making Ackerman Toyota #1 2 years in a row. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as Support Dogs for Our Brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. I can tell you how to get a free quick quiz to see how artificial intelligence can boost your company's potential. You go to PRIGlobal.ai. PRIGlobal.ai. St. Louis Business Magazine listing PRI as one of the leading IT companies. And PRI has its own AI lab to develop what your business needs. PRIGlobal.ai. PRIGlobal.ai.
This is News Talk STL.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
The Obama administration took their eye off the ball and let China just sweep in all over South and Central America with their economic and cultural influence, cutting deals with local governments for bad infrastructure and surveillance and indebtedness. President Trump said, not anymore. We're taking our backyard back. That's why I was there for a conference of Central and South American countries as well. We're going to invest in ways that serve American interests in our backyard as we stop the sphere of Chinese influence. First and Free is a big signal of that. And we want to thank the Panamanian government. They've been good partners, but rightfully so. It serves their interest to be partnered with America, not with China.
There you go. That's our Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth talking about how we're working with Panama to get China out of the Panama Canal. And we're going to have to do more than that, but that's a good start. China, of course, decided overnight that, well, we're going to fire back at Trump. We'll make him pay a big price, and I'm sure his people around him will start yelling and, oh, we got to stop it. It hurts too much. No, that's not going to happen. China decided it would hike tariffs on imports from us from 84% to 125%. There. Trump had already said the other day, we're hiking tariffs against China to 125%. If we're both at 125%, zero, except for the consumers. That's where it's going to hurt. But the trade balance will be even, and then we'll eventually find a way to get to being fair. But as Pete Hegseth is pointing out, it's not just trade and dollars and trade deficit. It is the issue of security, national security. Our issue with the Panama Canal has been the Panamanians have been letting China get their teeth, their fingers too deep into the canal. And if they decided at some point they would just shut it down, that would be a major economic issue for the U.S. and the world. So Panamanians have decided we should side with the U.S. Good decision there. Great decision. Welcome aboard to hour number 2, Larry Connors USA. We're here every Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. for you. And when on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. You go to NewsTalkSTL, Rumble, NewsTalkSTL, Twitter, or Facebook. You go to Larry Connors USA, Rumble, or Facebook, and you can watch the program while it's in progress right now. And if you miss it, you can't listen or watch entirely at this point, everything is posted as a podcast later at NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, and Larry Connors USA Facebook. And reminding you again, your phone is a radio in your hand. You've got us in your palm all the time. You download the NewsTalk STL app, the brand new app. You push a button and bang, you're listening to whatever we have on the air at that moment from wherever you are. Wherever. You just push a button and you're listening. And we're glad to have you. Many actually use, and I do, open up the app in the car and play it through the Bluetooth, through the speakers in the car while I'm driving. But you're now on board with Larry Connors USA, where we have not only news, analysis, opinion, but also education. You will leave this hour with more knowledge than you had when we started. And let's begin by going to the White House spokeswoman, Carolyn Leavitt, about how Trump is dealing with China.
It's the policy of this White House and the Trump administration to put America first, to bring back jobs that have been fled overseas, to no longer allow China to dump cheap foreign products into the United States of America while they prevent American-made products from entering their market. China has been taking advantage of the American worker for decades. Both Democrats and Republicans have called on presidents to do something about this, to finally attack our crippling trade deficit with China, and to also make them pay for the more than $600 billion they have stolen from American companies and taxpayers in the form of intellectual property. So the president has great courage to finally take on China in this way. He has said he's open to talks. He's open to negotiating a deal. He believes China wants to talk to the United States of America. They just don't know how to go about it. We've had more than 75 other nations across the globe reaching out to this administration because they know this is the greatest country to do business. And those deals are underway. They are being negotiated by the president's trade team. But America cannot exist if we continue to enrich and embolden China. And President Trump is finally doing something about it.
I did get a little laugh out of Carolyn Leavitt saying that China just can't figure out how to talk. Other nations are doing it. But they issued their statement. The U.S.'s imposition of abnormally high tariffs on China seriously violates international economic and trade rules, also violates basic economic laws and common sense. It is a completely unilateral bullying. And given that the current tariff level, there is no market acceptable for U.S. goods exported to China. The U.S. continues to impose additional tariffs on us. China will ignore it. And we will hit U.S. goods coming in at 125% tariff, which is exactly what Trump had done the other day against Chinese goods. What is happening actually inside China? Well, now, that's pretty hard to get a full understanding. But there have been some videos coming out from business owners. And you don't own anything in China unless you have permission by the government to have it. And they're going to collect what they want when they want. You pay a tariff to China with your goods to begin with. It's not a tax. It's a basically seizure. But some of those that have their businesses and trying to make things work for them and their family and their employees, and they're already seeing the reaction to this tariff war. Here's her reaction.
Last month, I took an order for a batch of copper parts. I've already bought all the materials. It cost tens of thousands, and everything has been cut, ground, washed, and engraved. It's not finished yet, but today the customer messaged me and said the delivery might be delayed. After customs clearance, the taxes have gone up too much. A TikToker who works as a bulk trade supplier shared in his video the huge pressure he's under after the sudden increase in U.S. tariffs.
订单量5000多万美金，今年我们订单已经排到了26年的5月份。
Our orders are worth over 50 million US dollars. This year, we're already booked through May 2026. But with this 30% tariff hike, the impact on us is huge. If you're a small startup, it's not such a big deal because you don't ship enough to fill an entire container. But for us, it hits hard. Our profit margins in bulk trading are already razor thin. Now with a 34% tariff, it's like getting knocked to the ground.
And it's going to get higher. There are going to be a lot of folks suffering some pain until this gets ironed out. The European Union is going to be suffering, and they're already getting a hand extended from China to them. China is pleading with the European Union members, join with us, join with Beijing to resist the bully, Donald Trump. The state news agency said Premier Xi had stressed the need for cooperation between the European Union and China to get through this trade war with Washington. This comes 24 hours after the Aussies rejected the same plea from Beijing. Now they've also made a call to the Spanish Socialist Prime Minister, asking him Spain buys about 45 billion euros. That'd be about $49 billion worth of goods every year from China. Its fourth largest trading partner, but sells about $7 billion worth, or €7 dollars. So they would like to some ability to expand markets as well and see a decrease, but they're not going to team up with China either. They are going to recognize you cannot outdeal Donald Trump on this kind of stuff. Victor Davis Hanson said, if the European Union really were getting smart, they would be applauding what Donald Trump is doing.
If Donald Trump can cut a deal with one major player, and I think that Scott Bessent can, preferably in Europe, because what he's basically saying, if it's reciprocal or no tariffs, zero tariffs, they're going to want to make a deal. You mentioned all the other extraneous issues, but for right now at this time, just one or two major players, and I think all the rest will follow, and China's not going to like that because the Europeans know that China treats them as badly, almost as badly as it does us, and they've been waiting for American leadership to say, look, why don't we in the West and the westernized parts of Asia get together and have zero or reciprocal parity on tariffs, then we will have real leverage about the one player in the world that culturally, socially, economically, politically, militarily is trying to leverage all of us.
And that would be China. European Union already knows what they've been going through, but they've just been suffering through it, seeing no other way around it. How could we begin to stand up to China? But if there were American leadership, as you heard from Victor Davis Hanson with the Hoover Institute, if there were American leadership, then we could get behind that and would have not only more force, more credibility, and things would change. And China is out there trying to pick apart the European Union. Any of the countries in there, can you join us? Will you join us? And going after Australia, going after other countries, say, you join us, you'll be in better hands. And yet every one of those countries have suffered, continue to suffer, under the tariffs imposed by China, and they're at a trade deficit and overpaying. They know who the bad guy is. But Peter Navarro, White House trade advisor, said, if I were to become overnight the advisor to Premier Xi as to how to deal with Trump, here's what I would suggest.
What we should do, Mr. Xi, again, I'm a Chinese advisor right now, is do what we should have done over a decade ago, is move towards a domestic consumption-dependent economy and lift our people out of prosperity, not just with wages, but to give them the wherewithal to actually buy stuff. And that we should move to an accommodation and pick up the phone. And I would tell President Xi, if I'm his advisor, is like, look, we're a prisoner of our history. The British unfairly killed us with their opium, took our wealth, took our ports with these unequal treaties. But this is not that with the Americans. The Americans have a very legitimate beef with us, and we need to come to some kind of accommodation and pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone. Just pick up the phone. You heard earlier they're saying, Carolyn Levitt saying, apparently China doesn't know how to talk to us. Pick up the phone and start dialogue. They know how to do it. They just are not going to do it. There will come a time when Premier Xi and Trump will be shaking hands again, and there'll be some kind of deal made. But it's not going to be us continuing to be subjected to China's whims and dictates. They're going to learn what strong leadership means as opposed to getting it through dictatorship. And yet the message that Navarro said, if I were the advisor to Xi, here's what I'd advise him. The Americans have a real beef here. We need to convince some of our own Americans. They're out there still castigating Trump for starting this and claiming he's trying to make money on the side. Trade war, he's milking money left and right out of the stock market. Suddenly they're concerned about members of Congress or in the White House making money off of stock deals. never once questioned Pelosi, never once questioned any of the rest of them, nor Biden and his group. If the left would listen to Navarro and buy the argument he's trying to sell Premier Xi, we might find a way to work better together all the way around. But you're not going to get it from these guys. And while the Trump White House is trying to set things right and fair on the world stage, the DOJ team continues to uncover how your tax dollars are being wasted, being abused, and how you're paying for fraud. Our U.S. Secretary of Labor.
Unemployment insurance fraud. That trust needs to be whole for the American people. When we need it for who deserves it. That's not what we're seeing. And the numbers that we saw last night, again, exposed by our partners at DOJ, at the Department of Labor. Since 2020, over $400 million of payments have gone out already. And when you hear these numbers, apparently in the United States, we have over almost 25,000 people who are over 115 years old who are collecting $59 million that we have sent out to people. Talk about fraudulent behavior. Mr. President, 28,000 people between 1 and 5 years old have collected fraudulent payments at the tune of $254 million has gone out. And lastly, 10,000 people who have not been born yet, 15 years into the future, $69 million, and they haven't even been born yet. In one case, they will be born 129 years from now. The United States government sent them $41,000, and they're not born yet.
Well, what a great scam that would be. That's our Labor Secretary, Lori Chavez de Romero, talking about what they have uncovered along with DOJ as to how you're being ripped off inside Labor Department. 25,000 on the rolls, over 115 years of age, according to the documentation, collecting $59 million. 28,000 between the ages of 1 and 5 years old, collecting fraudulent payments of $254 million. And 10,000 not yet born, 15 years into the future. They haven't been born yet, are being sent $69 million. These are using the Social Security numbers that we told you about the other day, how the Biden camp just began to send them out. 2 million Social Security numbers going out in Biden's last year. Prior to that, about 900,000. Prior to that, 700,000. First year in office, Biden sent 250,000 Social Security numbers to illegals. The Trump team is now going in and ripping all of those up and taking them off the lot, taking them off the list for Social Security numbers. So these illegals who have such a number, when they go to apply it and the employer goes to put it in, it will not compute. Too bad, so sad. Coming up, my guest is going to be talking about one of the more traumatic things you will face in life. He is a sponsor, but he's also an expert and can help you. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-5444. 4930. 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. There is a speakeasy in Cottleville, but you need a passcode. So go to the Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook, get your passcode to one of the hottest news spots in the area. Amazing food, 7 hotel rooms, 2-bedroom penthouse, and a speakeasy. I got my passcode. Get yours. Let's enjoy the speakeasy in Cottleville. You get your code by going to Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook.
This is News Talk STL.
I'm chasing tail lights straight as a crow flies, hunting justice down a country road. I've got a shotgun, it's riding shotgun, and we're both fixing to unload. Son, I know what you've done. There's only one way to outrun me. You better pray your tank don't beat mine to eat.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. One of the most traumatic experiences in life is missing an episode of Larry Connors USA. Well, it is for me, and it should be for you, but maybe not. But I do know what one of the most traumatic events is: moving. And especially if it comes to moving your parents, your grandparents, a lot more trauma involved. As always, I let you know when I have one of my sponsors on board. I don't try to slip it by. This is Josh McGuire, who's head of and founder and owner of McGuire Moving and Storage, one of our sponsors. But they're also silver certified. They deal a lot with senior citizens, helping them make a move or helping their children help them make a move in the process. Josh, welcome aboard.
Hey, Larry. Thanks for having me.
Well, again, when it comes to moving, it really is traumatic for people overall. You've seen so many cases, and not one is the same as the other, right?
No, it's not too traumatic for our customers, Larry. No, it can be. I'm being silly.
Like missing my program. You're right. Go ahead.
It can be. And you called me the founder. I want to correct you. I'm 4th generation. I don't have the distinction of having founded this company.
Yeah, as soon as I said that, I thought I know I'm wrong because you guys have a long and storied history. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And you're right. As the population ages, more of our customer base is in that silver category, senior category. The politically correct way to say it changes quickly,
right.
But right now I think we're calling it silver now. But older folks, and we have a bunch of people here that are tuned in to working with older folks. There are different issues that pop up than moving a younger couple maybe, and things like that. Folks have been in a home for 30, 40 years.
Right.
Moving to a new place they're maybe not excited about. It can be, really stressful.
And it may be their decision to make a move, or they reached a point where they don't need to go into assisted living, but they do need to downsize and be in an area, in a place where other members of the family are close by if they need help. I mean, again, that's you've got children and grandchildren helping them move forward in a step in a life when maybe they're not ready.
Yeah, no doubt. We're an agent for Beacon's Van Lines too, and so we go all over the country, and we see moving to be near kids and grandkids as the biggest motivating factor for making a cross-country move now. It used to be for a job or,
right.
Maybe but now it's to be near grandkids. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Now, when you're listening to Josh McGuire, the owner of McGuire Moving and Storage, and as he said, 4th generation, 4th or 5th generation?
Fourth.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm grooming the fifth generation now.
Good for you. Training them, learning and teaching them early and often. Now, when it comes to dealing with when someone is wanting to make a move, what are the factors they need to consider as far as dealing with the furnishings and making a decision of how I need to prepare in advance, or are you capable of doing all of it for them?
Well, we have a lot to say about it. So my recommendation is always, when I get the ear of a realtor or some of these senior move managers, the advice is always get the movers out there right away. Don't wait until the house has a contract. That's too late in the summer. We're booked out 30, 45 days, 60 days occasionally in the summer. So it's really busy for us. And so start early and have a professional like myself or one of my team walk through. We'll talk about how to get rid of things. We'll give numbers for estate sale contacts and consignment stores, and we can recommend storage options, getting stuff to the kid that's living in San Francisco. We can help with all of those things, and help save money through that advice, because often people are moving things they don't need. That's much of my business, probably moving things people could have got rid of. Maybe we want to hold on to it though, and storing it isn't a bad decision. So we can guide a customer on those things.
Now you're also big about that. You don't just do an appraisal over the phone. You actually want to see it, because too many times companies that would do it over the phone, they'll suddenly get there and say, "Oh, we're going to have to add this," and pretty soon it's well above the original estimation.
Oh yeah, no doubt. We almost insist on it anymore for jobs originating in St. Louis that we come do a walkthrough in person. I did a FaceTime with a customer yesterday that's moving home. We'd moved them a few years ago to Indianapolis area, so they're coming back, and we did a FaceTime walkthrough at that place, and that's okay. A lot of moving companies have gone to the virtual because I guess it's expensive to pay good people to drive all around town and make it work. But we sort of insist on it because the results can't be argued with.
Yeah, and you're seeing it firsthand. And we're talking about moving families and homes, but you also move businesses.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we have a pretty good commercial side. I've got folks on staff that can break down cubicles and all sorts of crazy furniture we see in some of these commercial spaces. We move warehouses and factory spaces and machine shops and all sorts of weird things.
Once you get into a move and some kind of problem or issue comes up, what is the most common issue that arises, and then what's the resolution?
Packing wasn't completed by moving day is probably the biggest headache we see in real time. Yeah, it's expensive to pack, to have us come in and pack or a third party packer. It's just not cheap, right? So folks want to save the money, but the time runs out quicker than you expect. It sneaks up on you, and so we want to make sure that we've set enough time aside for, if we're going to do a pack job, we'll come in a day or 2 days prior and get everything ready. On moving day, it should be ready to go.
And part of the key there is, if not properly packed, it's not going to be as safely moved.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there are great resources. YouTube has great packing videos. I've got a friend in the business who started a TikTok page, and she gives packing instruction, really, really great videos. The resources are out there. My folks will even coach a customer how to pack this or that if they come by to pick up boxes for, in advance of their move. They're going to do their self-packing. We'll show them how to do some of that stuff.
What about vehicles, moving boats, cars, things of that nature?
Yeah. We probably move 3 or 4 cars a month across country. We put them on the truck sometimes. Old school moving and storage, we used to have cars on the moving trailers often, less so nowadays. We've got a referral partner that we work with for most of these nowadays, but we've had a few on the trucks lately. Had I don't think he'd mind if I shared it, but we got to move Hale Irwin's car out to Scottsdale a while back. That was pretty cool. I picked him up at the airport. I dropped him off at the airport and drove the car back, and then gave it to the car carrier. So that went pretty well without issue. We move, often it's easier if you got two cars to keep one here until moving day, give it to us to ship one early, so it's waiting for you in Naples, Florida, right? You get there, you got a car.
I have to ask, did Hale give you any putting tips while you were in the car together?
I didn't bug it with that. We're fortunate to get to move a lot of high profile people like that,
right.
and I think what they like most is that I don't bug them for autographs.
Well,
or,
of course
too
not.
much.
Yeah, except on the contract when you get to that. But
right.
I had Hale Irwin on a radio program once before. This was right after he was playing in I want to say the U.S. Open, might have been some other PGA event, and he moved the club across the top of the ball and called a stroke on himself. They thought he was just, getting the motion down. He said, no, I actually meant to hit the ball, so I had to call a stroke on myself. That's the kind of character the man is. And, I mean, part of the game and everything goes with it. I mean, it's when you have people like that around you, you know you're going to enjoy being with them because of their character. Now, as far as McGuire moving and storage, what about storage? When we talk about storage, you're talking about you have a facility or you have pods, or what are you doing?
Oh, a little of both. We have about 250,000 feet of warehousing space, and we do offer portable storage too. We have these 8 by 8 by 16 foot long portable storage containers we can drop in the driveway.
Right.
We can pick them up full and move them to the new house. We see a lot of people using them for decluttering before a house. Maybe we drop it, they declutter, we come in and do the move, and then we drop it after they're settled in. That kind of thing.
One other thing
we
is
have some do-it-yourselfers doing the whole move that way.
One of the times we talked not too long ago, and I want to know how it's changed. You guys were hiring. You're looking for more and more labor. Where does that stand now, not only for you, but the moving market?
Well, I think, as with most employers nowadays, it's hard to find good people, right? But yeah, we absolutely are always hiring good people. Coming into this busier season, for sure, we could use a few more guys and gals to help us get families relocated.
All right. Now I'll tell them right now in advance, you need to meet a high standard if you go to work for McGuire Moving. Josh, thank you very much for your time.
This is true.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, sir. Josh McGuire, owner, McGuire Moving and Storage. Again, one of my sponsors. I don't try to slip them under the radar screen, but hopefully you also learn some things that will help you on a future move for you or someone else. Coming up, what is being done to make our nation safer? Attorney General Pam Bondi.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
Question: are you looking to unlock the full potential of artificial intelligence for your business? I want you to meet my friends at PRI Global, named by the St. Louis Business Journal as a leading IT consulting firm. 25 years helping local and worldwide companies. PRI Global has a free survey to determine where your company stands in your AI journey. You simply go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. And I also have a phone number, so get ready to copy that number. And I'll remind you that PRI Global has its own AI lab, creating, adapting, developing, pushing the boundaries for what AI can do for you. Here's the number, 636-689-0545, 636-689-0545, or visit priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. Here's great news. Napoli Kirkwood is now open. So that means fine dining right in the heart of Kirkwood. So you have the original Cafe Napoli in downtown Clayton, Napoli 2, Town and Country, Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, plus Napoli Brothers Pasta and Pizza in the Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, and now adding Napoli Kirkwood. What a great place to dine. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. Renewal by Anderson is having a huge sale. Buy one, get one 50% off. Renewal has the most 5-star reviews in St. Louis, is the Post-Dispatch Window Retailer of the Year, winning the J.D. Power Award 5 years in a row, plus the nation's best warranty. For a limited time, buy one, get one 50% off. Details at rbastl.com. rbastl.com. Renewal by Anderson. You've worked hard for your money, so protect it. Meet my friend Bob Leslie and ask about the Gain and Retain Plan. Leslie Consulting, 40 years in the St. Louis area as a leader in brokerage and risk management. Call 314-721-0066, 721-0066. Oh, and ask Bob how he was the L.A. Dodger #1 pick. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
I'm gonna run away to Tucumcari, make camp where the land is bare. I'm gonna run away to Tucumcari, ain't no one gonna find me there. Ain't no one gonna find me there. Found trouble in the town I come from, left 6 months ago or so. I had to run from the man I wronged there.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Your directive to me was to keep America safe, and that's what we're doing. Whether it's the alien enemies, all of these gangs, and they are enemies of our country. They are terrorists, they are organized crime, they have come here, they are extremely organized, they are spread throughout our country, and they are creating terror, and no more under your directive. And that has stopped. Yesterday in South Florida, we charged the 11 defendants with $500 million of pure cocaine coming into our country to kill our kids. They were caught. They will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. These gang members are going back to where they came, or they're going to an El Salvador prison.
That is Pam Bondi making it very clear they're getting out of our country one way or the other. And I yet to see a leftist come forward and explain why they want these people to stay here if they've been convicted of crimes, already been deported more than once and keep showing up, and they're responsible for trafficking in drugs and children. Why do you want these people in your neighborhood? Oh, that's right. You don't want them in your neighborhood. You want them in someone else's neighborhood. Now, many will say that's just, Pam Bondi, Attorney General. She's with Trump. That's all, blah, blah, blah. Trump. It's Trump. Trump, Trump, Trump. Let me share this with you. I didn't get a chance to mention this yesterday, but the New Mexico governor has declared a state of emergency to address rising crime and the opioid crisis straining local law enforcement. This particular story comes right out of I believe it's let me get the correct source again. I don't like giving you a false source. This is from the Straight Arrow News, but I'll give you another source. So we'll go to the Associated Press. Will you buy that one? The Associated Press says the New Mexico governor mobilizing National Guard to take crime emergency in Albuquerque. The governor declaring a state of emergency in New Mexico's largest city, Albuquerque in particular, stating that a significant increase in crime warrants the help of the New Mexico National Guard. How many of you think living in Albuquerque want to see more of these folks staying in their cities, much less their state? So she signed an order clearing the way for several dozen troops to be deployed along the Route 66 corridor. That's right, the old Route 66, starting in mid-May. The order will free up state funds for the National Guard to be used as part of the effort, and already 60 to 70 troops are being trained to how to deal with this. Governors obviously typically call up the National Guard with natural disasters, wildfires, earthquakes, so forth, but here she is declaring at this point we have a state emergency, and in particular in Albuquerque. And the Albuquerque police chief says we welcome this support. He said, what we've been trying to do is get every category of crime down, and we're seeing escalation. So we need more help. Now, you cannot say all that crime should be blamed on illegals. But I'm willing to put good money down that it does involve many illegals. By the way, also the U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey announcing their office is investigating the New Jersey Governor, Phil Murphy, and New Jersey Attorney General over their instructions not to cooperate with ICE on certain warrants. The New Jersey District Attorney stating, the governor has on his website currently do's and don'ts for his local state law enforcement. Those do's and don'ts instruct them not to cooperate with illegal immigrants who have administrative warrants that have been issued by the court after due process, saying they're no longer welcome here. They've gone through the court system. They are to be deported. It is instructing them to go against our federal rules, President Trump's executive orders. She said, I want it to be a warning for everyone. I'm instructing my office, again, this is in the District of New Jersey, to open an investigation into the governor and the attorney general who ordered the state police not to assist ICE or other federal agents. That they list our federal agencies that are under my direction, the FBI, the DEA, and all these individuals trying to clean up our streets in New Jersey. Those who are refusing to cooperate, we want the list. This will no longer stand. Nor should it. But I'll remind you, the progressives were all about having more and more illegals across the face of the land. So whenever they're complaining about anything, you have to look at how responsible are you for creating the very issue you're complaining about. Now, of course, they could say right now and wash their hands saying, we're not responsible for the trade war underway. That's all Donald Trump. Why don't we do a survey and find out how Americans are looking at it and if they're going to be hurt already? And what did they do? Well, they were able to go through CNN, went to the University of Michigan and got them to do a consumer sentiment study. I don't say that CNN paid for it, but University of Michigan knew we turned this over to CNN and it's going to get some headlines, and sure enough it did. Pointing out the consumer sentiment plunging 11%. 11%. And they claim that this is the lowest rating ever seen since during the Great Recession. The second lowest reading on records going back to 1952. Why? Oh, yeah, that's right. Donald Trump's volatile trade war, which they say threatens higher inflation, and that's weighing more on Americans' moods these months, and saying it's going to get worse because, as Trump announces, more tariffs. The survey director said, this decline was like last month's, pervasive and unanimous across age, income, education, geographic region, political affiliation. They'll go on to point out the Federal Reserve and Wall Street are watching how these souring sentiment reactions are translating to consumer spending, stating that whether Americans lose faith that inflation will return to normal in the coming years. That's after Trump Wednesday, of course, had paused the massive tariff on dozens of countries for 90 days. It was all part of the game plan. Put pressure on them till they yelp, cry uncle. All right, we'll let up. Now get your house in order and see if we can come to an agreeable consensus. I don't know where the University of Michigan finds the people that are so soured on what we're doing at this point. I should correct that. I know where they find them. They know exactly where to go to get the people they want. Now, they will tell you all geographics, income, age, and political affiliation. Really? Am I going to tell you that Trump's plan as it's going right now is going to be 100% successful without any pain? No, I'm not. But don't buy into this fear that they're trying to start. And again, Trump even posted, and Hakeem Jeffries wants to claim that this is an example, maybe insider trading, when Trump declares on his own social media account, it's a good time to buy stock. He's suggesting that Trump is making money because the stock market went down and when he puts it up. Well, but it also went back up, didn't it? And so there's where he made his money, right? I'll come back to that in a moment. The money coming into this nation right now should not be overlooked. Money we would not have had except for Trump. Various large investment firms dropping billions in, various corporations, Hyundai, deciding they're going to put a plant in, spending billions, employing hundreds. And then we have pharmaceutical company Novartis announcing plans to build 7 facilities in the U.S. and expand others. This will be a $23 billion investment over 5 years. This is after Trump announced tariffs are coming on imported drugs. Novartis is Swiss-owned, Swiss headquartered. They're now going to put 7 facilities inside our nation so they can produce the drugs here instead of in Switzerland or wherever and then shipping them in subject to the tariffs. As you well know, Bayer is out of Germany, basically. And, of course, they have a major facility in West St. Louis County. Look for Bayer to follow what we see with Novartis here. But the release from Novartis points out this enables us to expand our current manufacturing, research, and technology presence across the country with 7 brand new facilities, creating nearly 1,000 new jobs, pointing out that 6 of these will be manufacturing plants in Florida and Texas. Not sure yet where they're going to build the other 4. I would not look for them to be building in California, would you? Trump had stated the other night, soon we're going to be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals. And when the pharmaceuticals hear that, they will leave China, they will leave other places because most of their product is sold here. And there's another plus side to that, safety for American consumers. I don't want drugs being controlled by the Chinese. Many of those dealing with China right now and us, they realize with the tariffs going on, maybe I need to ship my goods to another country if they're getting a lower tariff. But they'll probably have to pay a tariff to that country to do it. In the end, will they be ahead? Who knows? But I do know that we cannot rely on our pharmaceuticals produced abroad. Leftists, of course, are crying out that if someone is here on a green card, a student visa, they should be able to do whatever they want without fear of any kind of reprisal, certainly no deportation. Secretary of State Rubio rejects that view.
No one's entitled to a student visa. The press covers student visas like there's some sort of birthright. No, a student visa is like me inviting you into my home. If you come into my home and put all kinds of crap on my couch, I'm going to kick you out of my house. And so, you know, that's what we're doing with our country thanks to the president.
And who would not do that? Who would not do that? If you're going to come in and you're going to wreck my home, I'm not going to let you stay here. Trump has been sketching plans out, according to Breitbart, I'm sure there are other sources, first one I've seen here, to deport many and recall some migrants for farm and hotel jobs. He outlined to his cabinet meeting today that we could recall some of the illegals if they're going to work in the farm and the hospitality sectors. Those jobs are there and available. As you're hearing Josh McGuire, one of my sponsors, McGuire Moving and Storage, point out that it's still hard sometimes to get people to do, quote, some manual labor, such as farming and maybe waitressing, dishwashing, things of that nature. And so, yeah, we could bring them back under provisions. But they can also, and will be told, we'll deport you just as fast as we brought you back in if you start doing anything against U.S. policy, against American citizens. You're a guest And you'll operate under that premise. In the meantime, the House Minority Leader, as I mentioned earlier, Hakeem Jeffries, said we're going to be launching investigations into potential wrongdoing in the wake of President Trump's decision to pause his reciprocal tariffs that immediately caused stocks to go up and then take additional action. They went the other way. He said, we're going to examine whether any of the House GOP lawmakers were given advance notice and made market moves accordingly. Jeffries, are you saying you'll be looking at all? No, you just said House GOP members. Do you not think you should look at your own house? It is true. You live in glass house. You should not be the one throwing a stone. Hakeem Jeffries, your party is littered and basically occupied from one end to the other by grifters. How many, and there are Republicans have done as well, I'm not going to keep that out, but how many Democrats elected to various offices, local, national, end up facing a judge in sentencing and possibly time behind bars? But Jeffries thinks the best use of our tax dollars in the House Democrats right now is to investigate if any House GOP members bought some stocks early or had advance notice. When Trump put it on social media, on his own outlet, saying this is a good time to buy stocks, I would say that's not so much insider trading. That's amplifying. This is a time to buy. Follow the adage. Buy low, sell high. Simple enough. As always, thanks for listening. And please remember our pledge. One nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.